The radio crackled with static at 3:47 hours, somewhere over the Hindu Kush Mountains. Lieutenant Colonel Cassandra Phoenix Voss had been flying these desolate valleys for 8 months, but tonight something felt different. The Taliban had gone silent, too silent. Her A-10 Thunderbolt II, call sign Warthog 77, cut through the darkness like a metallic predator, its twin General Electric turbofans humming a deadly lullaby. Phoenix, this is Overwatch. We've got a situation developing at Grid 41 SMD 12,340, 5, 67,890. Navy SEAL team in contact, requesting immediate close air support. The voice belonged to Colonel Marcus Hartley, a man who'd never hidden his skepticism about women in combat roles. His tone carried the weight of desperation masked as routine professionalism. Cassandra banked left, her weathered hands steady on the controls. At 34, she'd logged more combat hours than most pilots would see in their entire careers. The scars on her left temple, barely visible beneath her flight helmet, told stories of a CH-47 crash in Helmand Province 3 years prior. She'd been the only survivor, pulled from the wreckage by Afghan commandos while insurgents closed in. That night had earned her the call sign Phoenix, rising from the ashes when everyone expected her to burn. Copy Overwatch, Phoenix inbound, ETA 4 minutes. Her voice remained calm, professional. She'd learned long ago that emotion was a luxury she couldn't afford at 20,000 feet. The A-10's GAU-8, a Avenger cannon, hung beneath the aircraft like the world's most lethal question mark. 7 barrels capable of firing 30mm rounds at a rate of 65 per second. The Warthog wasn't the fastest bird in the sky, wasn't the prettiest, but it was built for one purpose: bringing hell to earth with surgical precision. Below, in a valley that maps couldn't adequately describe, 8 Navy SEALs had been pinned down for 17 minutes. Master Chief Petty Officer Devon Reaper Kowalski pressed his back against a boulder, feeling the sting of shrapnel in his left shoulder. His team had been tracking high-value targets when the ambush erupted from 3 sides. Professional warriors reduced to counting ammunition and calculating angles of escape that didn't exist. "Where's our air support?" Petty Officer First Class Miguel Santos whispered into his radio, his voice tight with controlled fear. Kowalski checked his watch. In his 15-year career, he'd worked with every branch of the military. He'd seen cocky F-16 pilots who treated ground troops like video game characters, and he'd seen transport pilots who'd risk everything to extract wounded soldiers. But close air support from a female pilot, he'd never experienced that. His skepticism wasn't personal, it was statistical. Combat flying demanded split-second decisions where hesitation meant body bags. The mountain air was thin and unforgiving, carrying the scent of cordite and something else, the metallic tang of fear that every combat veteran recognized but never acknowledged aloud. 4,000 feet above the firefight, Phoenix began her descent into legend. The tactical radio frequencies buzzed with overlapping communications as Phoenix maneuvered her A-10 into attack position. Her heads-up display painted the valley in stark green lines, transforming the deadly landscape into mathematical precision. The Warthog's engines, mounted high on the fuselage to avoid ground fire damage, provided the distinctive whine that had become synonymous with salvation for American ground forces. Reaper 26, this is Phoenix. I have you visual, marking your position with infrared strobe. Her voice cut through the chaos with surgical calm. Below, Master Chief Kowalski activated the squad's IR beacon, invisible to the naked eye but blazing like a lighthouse on Phoenix's night vision systems. The Taliban had chosen their ambush site with brutal intelligence. The SEALs were trapped in a natural bowl, surrounded by elevated positions that provided perfect fields of fire. Muzzle flashes erupted from at least 12 different locations, creating a deadly constellation of threat vectors. "Phoenix, be advised, we've got enemy positions on the north ridgeline, approximately 200 meters from friendlies. Grid follows." Kowalski's voice remained steady despite the 7.62 rounds snapping overhead. Cassandra processed the information with the calculating precision that had kept her alive through 43 combat missions. The margin for error was measured in meters, not miles. One misplaced round could transform heroes into casualties, patriots into statistics. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, a Vietnam-era F-4 Phantom pilot who taught her that flying was 10% skill and 90% responsibility. Copy Reaper. I see multiple heat signatures on the ridgeline. Confirm no friendlies north of your position. Negative Phoenix. All friendlies are south of the Wadi. You are cleared hot. The A-10 descended through 8,000 feet, its titanium bathtub cockpit designed to withstand small arms fire and light anti-aircraft artillery. Cassandra's breathing remained controlled, each inhalation measured and deliberate. Her father had died over Hanoi when she was 7 years old, shot down during a close air support mission not unlike this one. She joined the Air Force to honor his memory, but she'd stayed to honor the men who called for help in places where help shouldn't be possible. The Warthog's targeting systems locked onto the first cluster of insurgents. The GAU-8, a cannon, could fire depleted uranium rounds capable of penetrating tank armor, but tonight she'd loaded high-explosive incendiary rounds, better for personnel targets in mountainous terrain. Guns, 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 Phoenix announced, pressing the trigger. The night erupted in thunderous chaos. The Avenger cannon's distinctive sound, a metallic roar that lasted exactly 2 seconds, echoed through the valley like the voice of an angry god. 30mm rounds impacted the north ridgeline with devastating precision, each explosion illuminating the mountainside in brief, violent snapshots. The first strafing run eliminated 6 enemy positions. Cassandra pulled the Warthog into a climbing turn, her G-suit inflating to prevent blood from pooling in her extremities. The aircraft's unusual design, engines mounted above the wings, landing gear that never fully retracted, made it look like a flying tank because that's exactly what it was. Below, the firefight's tempo had shifted dramatically. The surviving Taliban fighters, their tactical advantage evaporating under 30mm fire, began repositioning towards secondary defensive positions. They'd faced American air power before, but the A-10's loitering capability meant their nightmare was just beginning. Unlike fast-moving fighters that made single passes before departing for refueling, the Warthog could circle the battlefield like a mechanical vulture, delivering precise punishment for hours. Master Chief Kowalski seized the tactical opportunity Phoenix had created. Hand signals directed his team into a bounded retreat toward the extraction point, each movement coordinated with the A-10's attack runs. This was combined arms warfare at its most elemental level, air and ground forces synchronized in deadly ballet. Phoenix, outstanding work. We're moving to extract LZ. Can you provide top cover? Cassandra banked the Warthog into a lazy 8 pattern above the valley, her eyes scanning for remaining threats. Her aircraft carried enough ammunition for several more gun runs, plus a full complement of AGM-65 Maverick missiles for hardened targets. Copy Reaper. Phoenix is Winchester on cannon but holding station with Mavericks. You've got 15 minutes of top cover. What happened next would be analyzed in Air Force academies for decades to come, studied as a masterclass in close air support coordination. But in that moment, it was simply a pilot doing her job with the kind of professional competence that transformed routine missions into legendary ones. The silence that followed Phoenix's strafing run was more profound than the chaos that had preceded it. In the valley below, 8 Navy SEALs moved with the fluid precision of a unit that had just experienced divine intervention delivered at the speed of sound. Master Chief Kowalski's shoulder wound had stopped bleeding, adrenaline temporarily overwhelming nerve endings that would demand attention later. Jesus Christ, Petty Officer Santos whispered, watching the A-10 circle overhead like a protective angel. Who the hell was that? Kowalski checked his team's positions through night vision goggles, ensuring proper dispersion as they moved toward the extraction landing zone. Call sign Phoenix. Never heard of her before tonight. The warthog silhouette against the star-filled sky was unmistakable. Broad wings, twin vertical stabilizers, and the distinctive engine placement that made it look like it had been assembled from spare parts. But there was something graceful about its movement, each turn executed with the kind of precision that separated competent pilots from exceptional ones. Cassandra maintained her overwatch pattern, systematically scanning the surrounding terrain for thermal signatures that might indicate surviving enemy combatants. Her aircraft's Maverick missiles remained ready, their infrared seekers capable of detecting heat sources from miles away. The Taliban had learned to fear American technology, but they'd never learned to respect it enough to abandon their cause. Reaper 26, be advised, I'm tracking multiple vehicles approaching from the east, approximately 6 clicks out and closing fast. The Master Chief's blood chilled. Taliban reinforcements had arrived, probably attracted by the sound of gunfire echoing through the mountains. His team was still 40 minutes from the extract point, and even Navy SEALs couldn't outrun pickup trucks across broken terrain. Phoenix, can you interdict those vehicles? Cassandra adjusted her flight path, bringing the approaching convoy into range of her targeting systems. 3 pickup trucks, each carrying multiple personnel, racing through a mountain pass with the desperate urgency of men trying to join a firefight before it ended. Reaper, I have visual on 3 technicals moving through the eastern canyon. Engaging now. The first Maverick missile launched with a brilliant flash, its rocket motor igniting the night sky. The weapon's infrared seeker locked onto the lead vehicle's engine block, guiding the warhead with lethal precision. The explosion, visible from 15 miles away, removed the Taliban convoy as a tactical factor. But as Cassandra pulled out of her attack dive, her threat warning system began screaming. Somewhere in the darkness below, someone had just painted her aircraft with radar, the electronic signature of a surface-to-air missile system coming online. Phoenix, you've got SAM threat bearing 090, approximately 8 kilometers southeast of your position. The voice belonged to an AWACS controller orbiting somewhere over Pakistan, his radar scope displaying a tactical picture that suddenly looked far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Cassandra's training took over before conscious thought could interfere. She rolled the A-10 into a diving turn, deploying chaff and flares while simultaneously calculating escape vectors that would minimize her exposure time. The next 60 seconds would determine whether Phoenix became a legend or a cautionary tale. The SA-14 Gremlin shoulder-fired missile launched from a ridgeline 8 kilometers southeast of Phoenix's position, its infrared seeker tracking the heat signature of her twin General Electric TF-34 engines. Cassandra's threat warning system screamed continuously now, filling the cockpit with electronic chaos as she maneuvered the A-10 through a series of defensive maneuvers that would have been impossible in most other aircraft. The Warthog's design philosophy became apparent in moments like these. While sleek fighters depended on speed and stealth, the A-10 survived through redundancy and damage tolerance. Its flight controls were triple redundant, its fuel system was self-sealing, and its titanium cockpit could withstand direct hits from 23 cannon fire. But no aircraft was invulnerable to modern surface-to-air missiles. Phoenix, brake right, brake right. The AWACS controller's voice cut through the static with desperate urgency. Cassandra rolled the aircraft into a knife-edge turn, G-forces pressing her into the ejection seat as she deployed another pattern of flares. The missile's seeker head, confused by multiple heat sources, lost its lock and detonated harmlessly 400 meters behind her aircraft. But the Taliban had revealed the presence of sophisticated air defense systems, transforming the tactical equation from complex to potentially lethal. Reaper 26 Phoenix, I've got SAM threats active in your area. Recommend you expedite movement to extract LZ. Master Chief Kowalski didn't need the warning. His team was already moving at maximum sustainable pace across terrain that seemed designed to break ankles and tear equipment. The sound of Phoenix's engines overhead had become more than tactical support. It was psychological assurance that they weren't alone in this godforsaken valley. Copy Phoenix. ETA to LZ is 35 minutes. Can you maintain station? Cassandra checked her fuel gauges and weapons inventory. The A-10's loiter time was legendary, but she'd burned significant fuel during her defensive maneuvering. 2 Maverick missiles remained, plus a full load of 30 ammunition, but fuel would become the limiting factor long before ordnance. Reaper, I can give you 20 more minutes of top cover. After that, you'll be on your own until the cavalry arrives. The cavalry was a pair of F-16 Fighting Falcons currently en route from Bagram Airfield, but their ETA was still 47 minutes. In combat aviation, timing gaps measured in minutes could determine the difference between successful extraction and memorial services. As Phoenix continued her protective orbit, she noticed something troubling on her thermal imaging display. More vehicles were approaching from multiple directions, converging on the valley like spokes of a deadly wheel. The Taliban weren't retreating, they were reinforcing, bringing sufficient numbers to overwhelm even the most elite special operations team. Overwatch Phoenix. I'm tracking multiple vehicle columns converging on Reaper's position. This is turning into something bigger than a simple ambush. Colonel Hartley's voice carried new respect when he responded. Phoenix, what's your assessment of the tactical situation? Cassandra studied her displays, processing information with the analytical precision that had made her one of the Air Force's most effective close air support pilots. The valley had become a killing ground, and 8 American heroes were running out of time, ammunition, and options. The thermal imaging revealed a tactical nightmare developing in real time. Cassandra counted at least 47 heat signatures moving through the mountain passes, all converging on the SEAL's position with the coordinated precision of a planned operation. This wasn't a random ambush. It was a carefully orchestrated trap designed to capture or kill an American Special Operations team. Overwatch Phoenix. Recommend immediate dust-off for Reaper 26. This valley is about to become very unhealthy. Colonel Hartley's voice carried the weight of a commander making calculations no training manual could adequately prepare anyone for. Phoenix, extract helicopters are 40 minutes out. Can you keep Reaper alive that long? Cassandra's fuel gauges indicated 18 minutes of combat flying time remaining. The mathematics were brutal and unforgiving. Even if she expended every remaining round and missile, the numbers didn't favor American success. But sometimes numbers didn't tell the complete story. Overwatch, I'll give you what I can. Phoenix out. Below, Master Chief Kowalski was conducting his own tactical assessment. His team had covered less than half the distance to the extraction point, and enemy forces were closing from 3 directions. Professional warriors understood when tactical situations transitioned from difficult to desperate. All stations, Reaper 26, were going to ground. Establish defensive positions at Grid 41, SMD 12,378, 67,845. This is our Alamo. The SEALs moved with practiced efficiency, each man understanding his role and what might be their final stand. They'd trained for scenarios like this, studied historical precedents, and accepted the possibility that some missions ended badly. But acceptance didn't mean surrender. Phoenix rolled into another attack run, her remaining Maverick missiles targeting the largest concentration of approaching vehicles. The explosions illuminated the mountainside in brief, violent snapshots, each flash revealing more enemy positions than the previous one. For every Taliban fighter she eliminated, Two more seem to appear from hidden positions. Reaper Phoenix. I'm seeing organized movement patterns down there. These aren't random insurgents. Somebody's coordinating this attack. Kowalski's voice remained steady despite the deteriorating tactical situation. Copy, Phoenix. We figured this might be bigger than advertised. Just keep doing what you're doing. The A-10's GAU-A cannon roared again, 30mm rounds walking across a ridgeline where muzzle flashes had revealed concealed positions. Each 2-second burst eliminated multiple threats, but the tactical mathematics remained unforgiving. Cassandra was one pilot with limited ammunition facing what appeared to be a reinforced Taliban company. Her fuel warning light illuminated the cockpit in amber urgency. 12 minutes of flying time remained, and the extraction helicopters were still 36 minutes away. The gap between available support and required support was measured in American lives. That's when Cassandra made a decision that would define her legacy and haunt her dreams for decades to come. Reaper 26 Phoenix, I'm going to try something unconventional. When I give the word, I need you to pop smoke and move toward the northwest ridge. Don't question the order, just execute. Master Chief Kowalski had worked with enough pilots to recognize the tone of someone about to attempt something simultaneously brilliant and suicidal. Phoenix, whatever you're planning, remember there are 8 Americans counting on you getting home tonight. Cassandra's response carried the calm certainty of someone who'd already made peace with the consequences of her decision. Reaper, sometimes getting everyone else home is more important than getting yourself home. Stand by for my signal. The A-10 Thunderbolt II began climbing toward 15,000 feet, gaining altitude for what Cassandra hoped would be the most important strafing run of her career. Below, 8 Navy SEALs prepared to trust their lives to a pilot they'd never met, flying an aircraft designed for exactly this kind of impossible situation. The mountain air was thin and cold, carrying the sound of approaching death and the promise of salvation delivered at 400 knots. Phoenix reached 15,000 feet and rolled into a dive that would have been suicidal in any other aircraft. The A-10's airframe groaned under G-forces that approached the structural limits, but the Warthog had been built by engineers who understood that close air support sometimes required pilots to exceed normal operational parameters. Cassandra's altimeter unwound rapidly as she descended toward the valley floor at an angle that transformed her aircraft into a guided missile with a human brain. Reaper 26, pop smoke now. Move northwest on my mark. The SEALs deployed colored smoke grenades that created an instant visual marker, bright orange against the mountain darkness. Master Chief Kowalski led his team in a bounding retreat toward the ridge line, each man understanding that their survival depended entirely on Phoenix's ability to deliver precision-fire danger close to friendly forces. At 8,000 feet, Cassandra triggered the GAU-A cannon. The sustained burst lasted 6 full seconds, 3 times longer than standard engagement protocols recommended. 30mm rounds impacted the valley floor in a diagonal line of destruction that walked from the SEALs' former position toward the approaching Taliban forces. The psychological effect was as devastating as the physical damage. The approaching insurgents, who moments earlier had been advancing with disciplined coordination, suddenly found themselves facing a mechanical angel of death that seemed capable of placing precision fire anywhere within the valley. Their advance faltered, then stopped, then transformed into tactical withdrawal toward more defensible positions. But Cassandra's fuel gauges now indicated 7 minutes of flying time remaining. Phoenix, that was beautiful work. We're moving to the ridge line now. Kowalski's team bounded from position to position, using terrain features and the psychological suppression created by Phoenix's gun runs to advance toward higher ground. The northwest ridge offered better defensive positions and multiple escape routes, but it also placed them farther from the extraction landing zone. Reaper, be advised, Extract helicopters are now 28 minutes out. I can give you 5 more minutes of cover, then I have to RTB. RTB, return to base. The acronym that every ground combat unit dreaded hearing when enemy contact was still active. Master Chief Kowalski understood the fuel limitations of close air support aircraft, but understanding didn't make the tactical reality any less dangerous. Copy Phoenix, make those 5 minutes count. Cassandra rolled the A-10 into a shallow orbit above the ridge line, using her remaining ammunition to suppress enemy movement while conserving enough fuel to reach the nearest airfield. Her aircraft's threat warning system had gone quiet, suggesting that the Taliban's surface-to-air missiles had either been expended or repositioned beyond effective range. Then her radio crackled with an unexpected transmission. Phoenix, Sabre 2-1. We're inbound your position, Angels 20, ETA 15 minutes. Sabre 2-1 was the call sign for an F-22 Raptor, the Air Force's most advanced air superiority fighter. Cassandra had never worked with the stealth fighter in a close air support role, but desperate situations created unusual partnerships. Sabre 2-1, Phoenix. Welcome to the party. I'm Winchester on everything except a few rounds of 30 Mike. The situation is 8 friendlies on the northwest ridge, with significant enemy forces closing from multiple directions. The F-22 pilot's voice carried the confident precision of someone flying the world's most expensive military aircraft. But confidence meant nothing without the specialized training required for close air support in mountainous terrain. What happened next would become a case study in inter-service cooperation and the deadly ballet of modern air-ground coordination. The F-22 Raptor materialized from the darkness like a technological ghost, its stealth characteristics making it invisible to radar, but clearly visible to Phoenix's Mark I eyeballs. At 20,000 feet, Sabre 2-1 began a tactical descent that demonstrated why the Raptor was considered the world's most capable air superiority fighter. But air superiority and close air support required completely different skill sets. Phoenix, Sabre 2-1 has eyes on the friendlies. I'm carrying 2 GBU-32 JDAMs and a full load of 20 Mike. How do you want to play this? Cassandra studied her tactical display, calculating angles and blast radii with the precision of someone who'd spent 8 years perfecting the deadly mathematics of close air support. The F-22's weapons were designed for strategic targets, not tactical support of troops in contact. One miscalculation could eliminate the SEALs along with the Taliban. Sabre, the closest enemy positions are within 300 meters of friendlies. Your JDAMs are too big for this fight. I need you to use your gun on the southern approach, but stay high and dry until I clear you hot. The F-22's M61A2 Vulcan cannon carried only 480 rounds compared to the A-10's 1,350 round capacity, but 6-barreled rotary cannons were still effective against personnel targets. The challenge was delivering precision fire from a platform designed for beyond visual range combat. Phoenix, I'm not checked out for close air support. My last CAS training was 3 years ago. Cassandra's fuel gauges indicated 4 minutes of flying time remaining. In 4 minutes, she would be forced to depart for emergency fuel at the nearest airfield, leaving 8 Navy SEALs and an inexperienced F-22 pilot to figure out close air support coordination through trial and error. Sabre, I'll talk you through it. First rule of CAS is don't hit the good guys. Second rule is kill the bad guys. Everything else is just details. Below, Master Chief Kowalski's team had reached the ridge line and established defensive positions among the rocky outcroppings. From their elevated position, they could see Taliban forces maneuvering through the valley like ants following scent trails. The enemy had numbers and local knowledge, but American forces had technology and training. Reaper 2-6, Phoenix. I'm passing tactical control to Sabre 2-1. He's flying the fastest gun in the Air Force, but he's new to ground support. You'll need to walk him through target identification." Kowalski's voice carried the weary patience of a professional warrior adapting to circumstances beyond his control. "Copy, Phoenix. We've worked with fast movers before. Thanks for keeping us alive this long." The A-10 began a climbing turn toward the southeast, heading for Kandahar airfield and emergency fuel that would allow Cassandra to return to the fight. But fuel stops took minimum 45 minutes, and the extraction helicopters were still 25 minutes away. The mathematics of modern warfare rarely favored the heroes. Sabre 2-1, you have tactical control. Reaper 2-6 will mark targets with infrared strobes. Friendlies are on the northwest ridge. All threats are south and east of their position. Remember, danger close is anything within 600 meters of blue forces. The F-22 Raptor began its descent toward a fight it wasn't designed for, flown by a pilot who trained for air-to-air combat against peer adversaries. But sometimes warfare demanded that warriors exceed their training, improvise with their equipment, and trust their judgment more than their procedures. In the valley below, 8 Navy SEALs watched Phoenix's navigation lights disappear into the darkness, knowing that their survival now depended on an F-22 pilot learning close air support in real time. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and the margin for error couldn't have been smaller. Sabre 2-1 descended through 12,000 feet, the F-22's advanced avionics painting a detailed picture of the tactical situation below. Unlike the A-10's specialized close air support systems, the Raptor's sensors were designed for detecting and engaging enemy aircraft at ranges measured in hundreds of miles. Adapting that technology for ground support required improvisation and intuition. Reaper 2-6, Sabre 2-1. I'm tracking multiple heat signatures in the valley. Need you to mark the closest threats to your position. Master Chief Kowalski activated his squad's infrared markers, creating strobing beacons visible only through night vision systems. The SEALs had established overlapping fields of fire among the rocky outcroppings, but their ammunition was finite, and their position was ultimately indefensible against overwhelming numbers. Sabre, closest threats are bearing 180 degrees from our position, approximately 400 meters. They're moving through the wadi in squad-sized elements. The F-22 pilot adjusted his attack angle, bringing the Raptor's nose to bear on the designated target area. The Vulcan cannon's targeting system locked onto the general vicinity of the Taliban forces, but precision delivery required experience that couldn't be downloaded from training manuals. Reaper, I have general area targeted. Confirm no friendlies south of your position. Negative, Sabre. All blue forces are on the northwest ridge. You are cleared hot. The F-22's cannon erupted in a brief, violent burst. 20mm rounds impacted the valley floor with devastating effect, but the pattern was scattered across a wider area than the surgical precision of Phoenix's previous gun runs. 3 Taliban fighters were eliminated immediately, while several others were wounded or forced into defensive positions. Good hits, Sabre. Adjust fire 50 meters east and repeat. The learning curve for close air support was measured in seconds rather than hours, and the F-22 pilot was adapting with the quick intelligence that had qualified him for the world's most exclusive fighter squadron. His second gun run was more precise, more controlled, demonstrating improved target discrimination. But while Sabre 2-1 was learning tactical close air support, the Taliban was adapting their own tactics. The surviving fighters had dispersed into smaller groups, making them harder to detect and engage. More concerning was the appearance of additional heat signatures approaching from the eastern canyon, reinforcements that suggested this ambush was part of a larger operation. Sabre, be advised, I'm tracking new movement from the east. Looks like more vehicles inbound. The F-22 pilot checked his fuel and ammunition status. Modern air superiority fighters weren't designed for extended loitering over battlefield areas. His fuel consumption at low altitude was significantly higher than planned, and his cannon ammunition was down to 300 rounds. Reaper, I've got new threats approaching from multiple directions. My fuel and ammo are getting tight. When are your extract birds arriving? Kowalski checked his watch and calculated timelines that weren't improving with mathematical analysis. Saber, extract helicopters are still 18 minutes out. We need you to stay as long as possible. 18 minutes represented an eternity in close air support terms. The F-22 could maintain station for perhaps 12 more minutes before fuel considerations forced a departure. That left a 6-minute gap between available air support and helicopter extraction, 6 minutes during which 8 Navy SEALs would face overwhelming enemy forces without air cover. The tactical situation was deteriorating faster than anyone had anticipated, and conventional solutions were rapidly becoming inadequate for the emerging threat. That's when Master Chief Kowalski made a decision that would either save his team or get them all killed in the next 10 minutes. Kowalski's decision was born from 15 years of special operations experience and the kind of tactical intuition that couldn't be taught in training schools. He'd studied every major special operations engagement since World War II, analyzing the moments when conventional tactics failed and unconventional solutions succeeded. Saber 2-1, Reaper 2-6, change of plans. I need you to strafe the eastern approach road but stay high. We're going to use the Wadi system to move toward the extract LZ under cover of your fire. The plan was simultaneously brilliant and desperate. Instead of defending static positions until extraction, the SEALs would use the F-22's remaining ammunition to create a mobile suppression pattern, allowing them to advance through terrain that offered concealment but required exposed movement across open ground. Reaper, that's going to put you in the open for extended periods. If I miss anything, you're completely exposed. Kowalski's voice carried the calm certainty of a leader who'd already calculated the risks and accepted the consequences. Saber, staying here guarantees we get overrun. Moving gives us a chance. Sometimes a chance is all you get. The F-22 rolled into an attack pattern that would have made close air support instructors proud, despite the pilot's limited training in ground support operations. His remaining cannon rounds were expended in precise, measured bursts that suppressed enemy movement along predictable approach routes while conserving ammunition for emerging threats. Below, 8 Navy SEALs began a tactical movement that required perfect timing and absolute trust in an F-22 pilot they'd never met. Each bound from cover to cover was coordinated with Saber 2-1's gun runs, creating a deadly choreography of movement and suppression that gradually closed the distance to the extraction landing zone. Reaper, you've got multiple contacts moving to intercept your route. I'm down to my last 100 rounds. The Taliban had recognized the SEALs' movement pattern and was repositioning to establish blocking positions along the most likely routes to the extraction point. What had begun as an ambush was evolving into a running firefight across terrain that offered advantages to whoever could control the high ground. Saber, save your last rounds for the LZ. We'll fight our way there. The next 8 minutes showcased why Navy SEALs were considered among the world's elite special operations forces. Moving with fluid precision across broken terrain, the 8-man team executed a tactical withdrawal that maximized their advantages while minimizing their exposure to superior enemy numbers. Each man understood his role, trusted his teammates, and accepted that survival depended on collective performance rather than individual heroics. But even elite warriors had limitations when facing overwhelming odds across unfavorable terrain. Reaper, extract birds are 5 minutes out. I can see the LZ from your current position, bearing 045 degrees, approximately 800 meters. 800 meters across mountainous terrain under enemy fire represented a tactical challenge that would test every aspect of the SEALs' training and equipment, but it also represented hope measured in distance and time. Copy Sabre, we're moving to the LZ now. The final phase of their movement began with the distinctive sound of rotor blades echoing through the mountain passes. Two MH-60 Black Hawks approaching from the south, with door gunners ready to provide covering fire during extraction. Victory was 800 meters and 5 minutes away, assuming everything went according to plan. In special operations, plans were suggestions that reality rarely honored. The MH-60 Black Hawks materialized from the southern approach like mechanical angels, their distinctive silhouettes unmistakable against the star-filled sky. Both helicopters carried full crews of door gunners with M134 miniguns capable of firing 4,000 rounds per minute, transforming the extraction into a mobile firebase with overwhelming firepower. Reaper 26, Dustoff 77, we have you visual, marking LZ with infrared strobe now. The landing zone was a natural depression surrounded by rocky outcroppings that provided some protection from small arms fire, but offered limited maneuvering room for the helicopters. Pilot skill would be as important as gunner accuracy in the next few minutes. Master Chief Kowalski's team was 600 meters from salvation when the Taliban sprang their final trap. Concealed fighters rose from positions along the SEALs' route, creating interlocking fields of fire that transformed the remaining distance into a deadly gauntlet. The enemy had anticipated American extraction procedures and positioned themselves accordingly. Contact front, contact left, contact right. The radio exploded with simultaneous threat calls as the SEALs found themselves surrounded by Taliban fighters who'd been waiting in ambush positions. Sabre 2-1 expended his final cannon rounds in a sustained burst that cleared the immediate threats ahead of the SEALs, but his ammunition was exhausted and his fuel was at emergency levels. The F-22 pilot had exceeded every parameter of his mission profile, but physics ultimately governed all aircraft operations. Reaper Sabre 2-1 is Winchester and Bingo fuel. I have to RTB now. Good hunting, Marines. The F-22 Raptor disappeared into the darkness, leaving 8 Navy SEALs and 2 Black Hawks to resolve the tactical situation through firepower and determination. But the arrival of the extraction helicopters had fundamentally altered the battlefield dynamics. Dustoff 77, Reaper 26, we're taking heavy contact from multiple directions. Need immediate fire support on bearings 090 and 270 degrees from the LZ. The lead Black Hawks door gunners opened fire with their M134 miniguns, the distinctive sound of electric motors spinning up followed by the mechanical roar of 6 rotating barrels delivering precision destruction. Tracer rounds created brilliant lines of light that connected the helicopters to Taliban positions with deadly accuracy. But as the door gunners engaged targets around the landing zone, both helicopters became stationary targets for any Taliban fighters equipped with rocket.